The double doors of the observation deck hissed as they slid to either side. Captain Toptor entered the wide dark room, barely lit by a series of yellow guide lights inlaid into the walls, inches from the floor. Councillor Bora followed behind him, digital slate held idly against her thorax. Their compound eyes first took in the ethereal three-dimensional projection of the greater Alathena galaxy. The blue-white barrel spiral galaxy slowly rotated above their heads, the interior stars reduced to a vast cloud of glittering dust. Bora hesitated at the sight. Her neatly folded wings quivered against her back in reverence. Toptor continued forward, which drew Bora's attention back to the matter at hand. A mechanical buzz covered the sound of their steps as they crossed the damp metal floor. Toptor eventually slowed to a stop, all four arms folded behind his straight back, while his antenna twitched in interest. As wide as Toptor was tall, the bulky Buffmatic rattled across the empty floor at an efficient speed of a centimetre a minute. Steam rolled out from the machine's undercarriage to dissipate among the celestial projection above. A wide push mop trailed behind the Buffmatic, held in place by the interlocked ankles of a human perched on the back edge of the machine. The mop handle reached from the floor, through his ankles, under his crossed arms, and ended wedged between his cheek and shoulder. The brim of a white custodial hat obscured most of the man's face, head angled down towards the thick manual he balanced on one arm, and held open with the opposite hand. Statuesque, he only moved long enough to turn a page and return to his prior posture. The slate in Bora's arms activated with a cheerful orange glow that reflected against her and Toptor's reddish chitin. She tried to speak, but the Buffmatic's constant drone drowned out her words. Toptor reached for the control podium of the observation projectors. The galaxy overhead winked off, and the guide light slightly brightened. The man looked up at the change, and his hunched back straightened. He reached down the side of the Buffmatic to press a large button. The large machine trundled to a silent stop. The man remained curled around the mob handle as he adjusted the hat brim. Atop the Buffmatic, feet off the floor, the stout human had a rare moment of being eye level with the spindly Greentext. "Captain," he greeted flatly. Toptor gave a minor gesture towards Bora, but hesitated to speak. His antenna flicked as his sharp shoulders momentarily dropped. "Why are you sitting on the cleaning robot?" "The observation deck is within my rotation," the man replied. He took a deep breath. Per Federal Neo-Terra Research Vessel regulations, the Buffmatic-742 is the most energy and resource-efficient cleaning bot for rims of 30 max occupancy and above. The 6th edition sanitation process manual clearly states, in section C 8-B, that all sanitation robotics that do include programmable path mapping, but do not include artificial intelligence and immediate anti-collision sensors, must be under the supervision of D-class personnel or above. He took another deep breath. The 14th edition of Federal Common Linguistics defines the term supervision as a living sentient being maintaining the spatial awareness of one or more objects or persons over a minimum 5 federal fractioned micro-rotations. His eyes closed as he jammed one finger into the manual pages to save his place. Per First Officer Skensi, efficient supervision must be conducted within a meter radius of the subject being supervised. Moreover, the Federal Neo-Terra Research Vessel Health and Safety Regulations stipulate that all manner of liquid matter not contained within an observation chamber and present on the common mobility surface must be removed from said surface as swiftly and safely as physically possible. Bora stared in silence as Toptor produced the low hum of a Greentext sigh. "And the hard copy you are holding?" he dared to ask. Per Federal Neo-Terra Research Vessel Regulations, all occupation-related documentation, including but not limited to instruction manuals and regulatory compendiums, must be immediately available upon request in no less than 2 accessible states of matter, the most common forms being digital and print. Per the Sanitation Employee Onboarding Handbook, no recreational electronic devices may be in operation while said employee is fulfilling occupational responsibilities within their scheduled time block. Silence fell until Toptor's mandibles clacked together. He gathered himself and made a small gesture towards his companion. "Councillor Bora," he gestured to the human. "This is Owen Desclel of our sanitation crew. Owen, Bora has been invited on this ship to conduct a regulation assessment of interspecies cohesion among deep space exploration vessels. Owen's shadowed eyes flicked between Toptor and Bora through another span of silence. Bora stepped forward. I understand on a crew of... She glanced down at her slate. 37. You are one of 10 mammals, and the only human. Owen watched Bora's antennae, which curved downward above her eyes. Bora's wings fluttered in thought. Toptor turned. As the observation deck is already closed for cleaning, I will change the clearance level at the doors to give your conversation due privacy. Counselor, when you are finished, take the elevator to meet me on the bridge. Mr. Driscoll, speak freely. While the twin doors slid shut after Toptor's exit, Bora flicked through various interfaces on her slate. You seem to care deeply about the rules, she said conversationally. I know the requirements of my job, Owen commented. I also know that interspecies cohesion assessments are conducted by a commanding officer at the target destination of a research assignment, or by an assigned counselor at the first Federal Space Station after leaving the target destination. The ship has yet to make landfall. What are you actually doing? You are concerned I'm an imposter? Bora asked. No, Owen replied. Toptor's antennae move out of sync when he's lying. Captain Toptor welcomed Councillor Bora as she entered the bridge. Have you completed your assessment? Bora held her glowing slate close to her thorax. As a professional, I must suggest we speak privately. Toptor's mandibles flared and clacked together. Normally, but I believe hearing your report directly may be beneficial to present officers. Bora hummed. Very well. She checked her slate. The crew overall has an above-average compatibility score in terms of cooperation and cohabitation. However, as suggested, there is a social rift between the B-class and above personnel, and Mr. Driscoll. Social disagreement is common among class-based hierarchies in the workplace. However, this rift is completely one-sided and aimed directly at Mr. Driscoll, who happens to be the only human. Are you suggesting that nearly half my crew is xenophobic? Toptor cut in. The raw data may suggest it, but the situation is naturally more complicated. It's... Her lower set of arms crossed fitfully as her wings jittered. It's rather sad. Referencing our first conversation and statements collected from the research team, Driscoll is viewed as antisocial, territorial, and intimidating, if not predatory. Many crew members anonymously stated that he makes them nervous, which has become common since the human mutiny of the Eternity 60 Federation rotations ago. Then what is your report? Toptor asked. A and B class personnel are intimidated by Driscoll because he's too polite. Confused silence hung in the bridge. Explain, Toptor said. Driscoll is highly observant. He researches official processes and regulations for, he claims, fun, and immediately knew this assessment was purely voluntary and entirely focused on him. He knows that much of the research team considers him a threat. To keep his trust, we went through every complaint with anonymous identities. Granted, he correctly connected most complaints to the respective originator, a fact I withheld. The point, Councillor. Right. The point is, Driscoll has reduced his public behaviour to an impossible level of restraint. The social consideration he offers is nearly unheard of in such an interspecies environment. Put simply, the lack of threat is threatening. An example. Many species on the ship are herbivores. Driscoll understands his fang-like teeth are unnerving, so he avoids mouth-based expressions. The rare times his scheduled meal coincides with the B-class team, he sits apart because his protein-rich nutrient pack has an unsettling smell. He avoids eye contact because the best Skoks find it rude and Idorians find it aggressive. He walks quietly because Bozzetti are startled by loud noise. He leaves rooms after Varn enters because the primary compound in the majority of regulation disinfectants are toxic to Grubon in high concentrations. There are also details to his behaviour that would be cruel to alter. He works in what many consider the dark, because the human eye is efficient in low light, and regulation light levels cause him physical pain. This explains why he never removes his hat, and never looks up at any being taller than him, which coincides with many of the B-class team. Human physiology also requires minimal visual movement to effectively breathe. Paired with a basic need for mental stimulation, Driscoll has admitted to, in his own words, becoming lost in thought, which renders him motionless for minor stretches of time. A few researchers have admitted this statue-like appearance is unnerving. In conclusion, Captain, your crew is experiencing an extreme case of miscommunicated intent. How does this affect Deskel? First Officer Skensey inquired. Reports state that the Eternity Mutiny was caused by prolonged periods of resentment among the human workers. Bora gave a low-pitched buzz of annoyance. Deskel is disheartened by the complaints, but shows zero signs of resentment. In fact, a majority of C and D class crew members list him as, she checked her slate, a rare source of oxygen in the social vacuum of deep space travel. Top Tor nodded as his antenna twitched. I have seen recordings of him behaving differently among other D-class personnel. Do you have a suggestion on how to move forward with this information? I have comprised a list of crew members that could benefit from a specific interspecies sensitivity training, with a focus on cohabitation with genetic predators. A few others could benefit from some articles I have collected on the specifics of the Eternity Mutiny and historical factors that led up to it, with a reminder that the event took place 60 federal rotations ago, and Deskel is federally recognized as 30 rotations old. As for Deskel himself, I will try providing occasional recreational time that aligns with B-Class. This would allow space to push the social rift. The same could be said for all of D-Class, at your discretion. Also, there is a benefit to official leeway in terms of regulations. Too much structure can lead to strange results. I wondered if you had comments about the cleaning bot supervision, Toptor commented. Bora's antenna wriggled in amusement. Deskel's actions are harmless, but I believe humans call the behavior malicious compliance.